Lazy, ineffective, do-nothing Democrats Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are refusing to even sit down with President Trump and congressional Republicans to negotiate a budget so we can avoid a government shutdown. Now, before heading to Capitol Hill earlier today to meet with Republicans about the tax bill, President Trump tweeted, quote, meeting with Chuck and Nancy today about keeping the government open and working. The problem is they want illegal immigrants flooding into our country unchecked. They're weak on crime and want to substantially raise taxes. I don't see a deal. Then in typical, liberal, predictable, crybaby fashion, well, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they threw a temper tantrum. It rivals a 3-year-old. Crocodile tears, Chucky Schumer attacked President Trump during the press conference he held today. Watch this.
Mr. President, it's time to stop tweeting and start leading. As long as he remains a destructive force, it would be a waste of everyone's time to continue working with someone who clearly has no interest in coming to an agreement. The president doesn't indicate he's serious. We're not going to sit down just for a photo op. This is serious stuff.
Serious stuff, a waste of time to meet with the president to negotiate a stoppage of a government shutdown? Well, then the president, he responded by talking to the press corps in front of 2 empty chairs where Schumer and Pelosi were supposed to be sitting. Look at this.
Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi did not show up for our meeting today. I'm not really that surprised. We have a lot of differences. They're weak on crime. They're weak on illegal immigration. Before this meeting and before this missile launch, they've been weak on military in terms of spending. They're very hard to get for military. They want it for a lot of other things, but the military is always secondary to them. And the other thing, they want tax increases, and we want major tax decreases. So they decided not to show up. They've been all talk and they've been no action. And now it's even worse. Now it's not even talk.
Can you think of one thing Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer have done to help since Donald Trump was elected? Now, Nancy Pelosi tries to fire back at the president, tweeting out, quote, at real Donald Trump. Well, he now knows that his verbal abuse, you're going to call that verbal abuse, will no longer be tolerated. His empty chair photo op showed he's more interested in stunts than in addressing the needs of the American people. Poor Ryan and McConnell relegated to props. Sad. So Nancy Pelosi is actually saying tonight that President Trump, what he did is a political stunt. What about the fact that she and Schumer, what they pulled today, they wouldn't show up to have a meeting to fund your government? That is the ultimate political stunt. The president's responding by tweeting back after North Korea and their missile launch. It's more important than ever to fund our government and military. Democrats shouldn't hold troop funding hostage for amnesty and illegal immigration. I ran on stopping illegal immigration and won big. They can't threaten a government shutdown to get their demands. Now, what's even more hypocritical is Pelosi and Schumer want everyone to feel sorry for them because President Trump hurt their widow feelings. Now, Pelosi and Schumer forgot all about all the horrible things. We'll remind them tonight that their fellow Democrats and the media have been saying about Donald Trump for 10 months and longer. You may remember this.
His motives and his actions are contemptible, and I will fight every day until he is impeached. Impeach 45.
I rise today, Mr. Speaker, to call for the impeachment of the President of the United States of America.
The president's decision to end DACA was heartless and it was brainless.
We all agree that President Trump's decision to end DACA is a despicable act of political cowardice.
Are we getting closer and closer to the possibility of yet another impeachment process?
After watching the Clinton impeachment, I thought I'd never see another one. But I think we're in impeachment territory now for the first time.
President Trump did a tweet last night and a tweet this morning. Not presidential.
The president's fitness for office is something that is being called into question. I'm very worried about his fitness.
Yeah, really? All those are just examples. They're just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Democrats trashing the president. They do it every day. They've called him every name in the book and then some. And Democrats and their irrational hatred for the president is unlike anything we've ever seen in modern political history, and that's not including the liberal mainstream media that has been trying to destroy President Trump since he launched his campaign. So Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they can try and play the victim all they want and act like petulant little children, all they want in this case, but in reality, they're just feigning moral outrage like they always do. Now, when it comes to negotiating a budget, if Democrats, you want to play games, if you're refusing to even come to the bargaining table, then guess what? You'll own the government shutdown. And from what the president said today, it sounds like he is not going to be backing down to accommodate your ridiculous demands, and he shouldn't back down. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they're going to try and pressure Republicans to go along with every liberal agenda item from DACA on down. The American people don't want it. They want to blackmail President Trump and the Republicans into literally breaking their campaign promises. That would be stupid. Now, Democrats are also going to try and deploy their government shutdown scare tactics like they always do. The GOP, for once, you shouldn't budge an inch. Let them own it. The government, by the way, never really ends up shutting down, despite the threat, the lies Democrats have been telling over the years. Guess what? If they do have a, quote, government shutdown, Social Security checks, they still go out. The post office still delivers mail. Food stamps, well, that's not impacted. The executive branch, they still operate. The judiciary branch, they function. Congress, they pretty much go on like nothing happened. The only people that are directly impacted are non-essential government employees. And guess what they get? They get a furlough, which means they end up getting a paid vacation because historically, Congress has always retroactively paid their salaries and they got all the free time off. Republicans need to show spine and backbone for once, please, and actually start fighting for the president's agenda and for the forgotten men and women in this country, you know, the people that actually voted you into power. And if Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they want to go out and cry, they want to suck their thumb in a corner, then so be it. The GOP needs to stop folding under pressure. Start actually keeping your promises. Start leading. Now, the budget is a great place to start, so get to work. Now, also tonight, the U.S. and the world are facing an escalating threat from Rocket Man himself, Kim Jong-un, after his rogue regime now carried out what the Pentagon believes to be a new ICBM test. This missile flew over 600 miles, was in the air for almost 50 minutes. It flew 2,800 miles into space, which is higher than any previous launch from North Korea before landing in the ocean near Japan. Now, Japan's prime minister has ordered an emergency cabinet meeting and says the missile could have landed in his country's exclusive economic zone. South Korea responding by holding a National Security Council meeting and also conducting a precision strike drill by firing their own missile into the ocean as their show of force. And Hawaii tonight, well, they began testing nuclear attack warning sirens. Now, it's the first time that state has done that in nearly 30 years. President Trump also weighed in on what is now a clear and present danger. That is the growing North Korean threat that took place earlier today. Take a look.
A missile was launched a little while ago from North Korea. I will only tell you that we will take care of it. We have General Mattis in the room with us, and we've had a long discussion on it. It is a situation that we will handle.
And Secretary of Defense General James Mad Dog Mattis addressed the situation as well. Let's watch.
A little over 2.5 hours ago, North Korea launched an intercontinental ballistic missile. It went higher, frankly, than any previous shot they've taken. It's a research and development effort on their part to continue building ballistic missiles that could threaten everywhere in the world, basically. But the bottom line is it's a continued effort to build a threat, a ballistic missile threat that endangers world peace, regional peace, and certainly the United States.
Now, with North Korea, we're getting to a point I had hoped we'd never reach. Pyongyang's dangerous nuclear ambitions are now progressing at a very rapid pace. And as you just heard Secretary Mattis say, the missile fired today went higher than any other previous test and now can reach any place in the world. That means a North Korean ICBM could be capable of hitting the continental United States, destroying major American cities like New York and Boston, Los Angeles, Chicago. Tens of millions of American lives now are in danger, not to mention the hundreds of millions that are being threatened in South Korea and Japan. And Kim Jong-un has created a situation that the United States and the world can no longer ignore. And right now, we're getting to the point where force might very well be necessary, because clearly this little crackpot dictator, Kim Jong-un, is not interested in stopping his missile tests. Now, the way I see it, America and the world have only a few options going forward, none of them good, in order to stop North Korea from reaching full nuclear program capability. We either next have to destroy the next North Korean missile test on the launch pad, shoot it out of the air after it's been fired. And if that doesn't stop North Korea, then we could attack and try and destroy the nuclear sites. But that comes with massive risks and huge uncertainties. What if we're not successful? What we now know is not working. The approach that is taken by Democrats, appeasers like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. They tried to appease North Korea. It has failed miserably, as appeasement always does. And in 1994, the Clinton administration, remember, they tried to bribe Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il. They gave North Korea $4 billion in energy aid in exchange for a promise that the rogue regime would freeze and eventually end their nuclear weapons program. A lot of good that did. At that time, Clinton went on national TV bragging about how his bribery worked and was such a good deal for it's a good deal for the American people. Remember this.
This is a good deal for the United States. North Korea will freeze and then dismantle its nuclear program. South Korea and our other allies will be better protected. The entire world will be safer as we slow the spread of nuclear weapons. South Korea, with support from Japan and other nations, will bear most of the cost of providing North Korea with fuel to make up for the nuclear energy it is losing. And they will pay for an alternative power system for North Korea that will allow them to produce electricity while making it much harder for them to produce nuclear weapons. The United States and international inspectors will carefully monitor North Korea to make sure it keeps its commitments. Only as it does so will North Korea fully join the community of nations.
None of what you heard was true. It all turned out it was a terrible deal with North Korea. Your tax dollars at work. Bill Clinton, completely wrong. And it has now led us to where we are tonight, in this situation we now find ourselves in. Democrats and the left, I'll never get it, obsessed with sucking up to murderous, radical dictators and despots. They're more willing to bend over backwards for people like Kim Jong-un and his father, Kim Jong-il. But guess what? History has proven over and over again it never works. We saw what happened with Neville Chamberlain and Adolf Hitler. His appeasement policies, well, that cleared the way for Germany's invasion of Europe. Bill Clinton throwing billions at North Korea led us to where we are today. And if anything happens, the blame will fall right at the feet of Bill Clinton and his stupidity and his ignorance and his belief in a fantasy that despots listen to him. And by the way, this led to the situation and the foundation of where we are today. And the same goes with President Obama's disastrous nuclear deal with Iran. This will come back to bite us. Obama giving Tehran and the mullahs upwards of $150 billion. Obama allowing that rogue regime to keep spinning their nuclear centrifuges and put them on a path towards getting a nuclear weapon. As a result, Obama now owns that terrible decision to appease a country that routinely calls for death to America, wants to wipe Israel off the map. And before we bring in Kellyanne Conway for reaction, two other breaking news stories to tell you about. One, Catherine Herridge is out with an explosive report. Take a look at the headline. Blowback. Clinton campaign plan to fire me over email probe, Obama Intel watchdog says. And the former intelligence community inspector general who played a key role in the Clinton email investigation is now saying that Clinton allies literally threatened him, his family, and his staffers. And the Clinton campaign also made it be known that this inspector general would be fired if Hillary, in fact, won in 2016. Also, finally tonight, a major development in the Uranium One scandal. The Hill's John Solomon out with a brand new report. Here's that headline. Clinton's understated support from firm hired by Russian nuclear company. According to Solomon, he'll join us later, the Clinton Foundation may have significantly underreported the donations they got from a company with deep ties to Russia. More later. But first, joining us